It's Thursday, September 1st, 2022, and this is FRCMedia News. I'm Keith Tebow. Fall River Public Schools began this week, and Bristol Community College starts next week. We get you set for next Tuesday's state primary, and 2 city parks are rededicated after receiving much-needed repairs. All this and more coming up. Students in Fall River return to the classroom this week. Fall River Public Schools opened for the new year on Wednesday, as students were welcomed by local volunteers, offering words of encouragement.
It's exciting. I think like everybody else, this is year 37 for me, and like everybody else, I still get jitters. I couldn't sleep last night because there's so many things that you can't control. But this is an exciting day, an opportunity for our kids to have a fresh start, new beginning. We've missed them, and we welcome them all back into our buildings and make sure that they have a productive, successful year. I'm looking at them, their enthusiasm, the energy, and signs, you matter. It sends a strong message to our scholars that their community is behind them, supports them. It's a great way for us to have a collaborative relationship where together we are, supporting our students.
Students at Bristol Community College's 4 locations will get back to work next Tuesday.
I'm really excited about fall 2022. This is super exciting for us because it's the first time in the pandemic that we have a really full group of students coming back for in-person learning. And a lot of our students discovered that they liked online learning during the pandemic, but our students coming this fall are primarily first-time, young, full-time students who are really looking for that full college experience, and we are so happy to give it to them this fall.
Bristol President Dr. Laura Douglas says the college continues to keep an eye on COVID with a guideline of mask protocols to be instituted if needed. Enrollment at Bristol is slightly lower than since before the pandemic, and circumstances have changed the makeup of Bristol students.
70% of our students are returning students. It's huge. The difference is that many of our returning students are not full-time, they're part-time. That's one of the outcomes of the pandemic. We shifted away, not so much in head count, but really in credit hours. Students need to work more. Look at what's happened with inflation and the cost of housing and food and gas. So our students are working more, maybe taking fewer credits, but they're still in process to graduate.
Dr. Douglas says the college is excited to be expanding its academic offerings in offshore wind and supply chain management. She also says Bristol's affordability and financial aid support will work hand in hand with President Biden's announcement last week to forgive up to $20,000 in federal student loans.
In reality, most of our students are high-need students and they are Pell recipients. But the best thing about Bristol Community College and attending is that our financial aid staff works with students on how to afford college. So, more than 50% of our students who graduate from Bristol Community College have no debt. How amazing is that? What other institutions can say that, right? We are so fortunate to work really hard with our students to find ways to pay for college. So if this can be a little bit of forgiveness to help them think about maybe pursuing the rest of their degree or continuing on with a bachelor's degree, that's really fantastic news.
The Massachusetts state primary is coming up this Tuesday. Some voters in Fall River have already cast their ballots either by mail or during early in-person voting this week at Government Center. Election Commission Chair Ryan Lyons says polls on Tuesday will open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m.
Fall River now has 27 voting precincts. We originally had 2 sub-precincts, 5B1 and 6C1. They were eliminated as of the 2020 federal census because Fall River is now part of 1 congressional district. And when in doubt, if you're not sure of your polling location, please contact my office. We're more than happy to give you your precinct information as well as the address. 508-324-2630.
Those voting by mail can still drop off their ballots in the elections office on the 6th floor of Government Center or in a drop box located on the 3rd Street entrance. Ballots must be returned by 8 p.m. on Tuesday in order to be counted. We take one last look now at some of the candidates running in Tuesday's primary. Jeff Deal, a Republican candidate for governor, is making his second run for statewide office. The former state representative from Whitman ran unsuccessfully for U.S. Senate against Elizabeth Warren in 2018. He announced his candidacy last summer, at a time when incumbent Governor Charlie Baker had yet to announce his intentions for a third term. Mr. Deal says he was ready to challenge Baker if necessary, based on Baker's handling of the pandemic.
I understand that we all needed to do what we could to try to protect each other during the pandemic. However, I still feel, and I think a lot of people in Massachusetts feel that, the my body, my choice, government should not interfere with your healthcare choices. That is especially true with the pandemic. You had frontline workers like state police officers. You've got people that work for the T, and now we're really understaffed at the MBTA because of it. But you had people that either took an early retirement or they were fired because they did not want to get the vaccine. They either got natural immunity from serving while there was there was no vaccine, or they have underlying health issues that the vaccine may have been a concern for them. So to me, and again, we've seen now with the vaccine, even being boosted doesn't necessarily prevent you from getting it. So, but even still, like just a few months ago, more state troopers were fired for not getting the vaccine. My goal is to get everybody back on day one. I want to rehire every state worker who was fired because of that vaccine mandate clause, and make sure that we get people back into the workforce and make sure the state can provide the services it's supposed to provide.
Mr. Deal says he's vaccinated, but his preferred candidate for lieutenant governor, former state representative Leah Cole Allen, is not and should not face any scrutiny. Mr. Deal has ties to the South Coast, having worked for Poyant Signs in New Bedford prior to his political career. He supports the construction of South Coast Rail and says expansion could help boost tourism opportunities in Fall River.
I've talked to some folks in Fall River that think that we could potentially push that rail into Rhode Island and try to see if we can pull some of the tourism that comes from the Newport area up into the Fall River area. I mean, coming over the Braga Bridge, you've got thousands and thousands of people every day. The trick is to get them to get off the bridge and get into Fall River right away, because there's so many things to see before they even get to the Cape or wherever else they're going if they're a tourist. You've got, again, Fall River, you've got New Bedford, you've got Plymouth, and then you've got all the Cape attractions. I think what we need to do is re-highlight the fact that Fall River is part of that wonderful coast that I think everybody would want to see. And I think now that, Brayton Point is, under redevelopment, I think we have the potential to have, more amenities. I think we need to look at some more hospitality, maybe hotels in the region, try to incentivize some growth in the tourism, that area. But I think my job is to make sure that infrastructure is put in place to support getting people off the road and off 195 and into Fall River as much as possible.
Mr. Deal believes state government should make it easier for small businesses to start in Massachusetts, and it should also allow parents the opportunity to have greater input into their children's education.
Parents, I think, from the pandemic were concerned that public schools weren't really able to handle the conversion over to remote learning very well and felt that their kids were behind. And seems like a portion of them are trying to take some of that education into their own hands. And so, for me, I think giving parents those choices of where they want to educate their kids is important. I know that under Governor Deval Patrick and Governor Baker, there was a lifting of the cap on charter schools. I would like to also see that we give people a chance to maybe use state funds for private schools, like that Supreme Court decision that has allowed that in Maine, for example. Maybe even give people a chance to use their tax dollars towards the homeschooling and the materials they would need for that. So I'd like to create an education savings account that gives people more choices.
Mr. Deal says he would like to keep taxes under control, calling for the rejection of a November ballot initiative, which proposes changing the state constitution to raise taxes on those making more than $1 million a year. Mr. Deal faces businessman Chris Doty in the Republican primary next week. He feels he has more government experience and has supported Republican ideals better than his opponent.
He has a private sector experience. So do I. We both own a business. But at the same time, I've spent the last decade really working hard to try to, build some balance on Beacon Hill as well. Right now, in a Republican primary, he's never been involved in Republican politics before. I've been trying to promote candidates for years to try to make sure, because right now there's a supermajority of Democrats in the House and Senate, and that doesn't really lend itself to good debate in those chambers. And so I think he also voted for, my opponent voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. I don't think that really sits well with the base Republicans in our state.
On the Democratic side, State Senator Eric Lesser feels he is best suited to be the next lieutenant governor because he brings a perspective of someone who represents residents outside of the Boston and the suburbs within Interstate 495.
The region of the state I come from in Western Mass, the greater Springfield area, is really very similar in a lot of ways to the South Coast. An industrial area, an area where people largely work in manufacturing, and an area that frankly has had to fight for resources and attention from Boston and from Beacon Hill. And one of the most important things I want to bring to the table as Lieutenant Governor is the perspective of someone from our regions outside of Beacon Hill, because I think you can appreciate here in the South Coast area how important that perspective is and how much it's really needed to have an executive team, a governor and a lieutenant governor, that really speak for the whole state.
Senator Lesser says his experience in representing two gateway cities in western Massachusetts will make him a perfect fit when it comes to advocating for policy changes that will impact Fall River.
So many of the things I want to champion as Lieutenant Governor are really important for Fall River. Just one example, I want to pledge to close the wait list at our vocational schools. I think this is so important to invest in voc ed, to work on better job training programs for people of all ages. And another very important issue is housing. You know, I think we're all proud of Massachusetts. We love living here. There's incredible assets here. There's incredible things happening. But it's too expensive. People can't afford it. The housing is going up and up, rents are going up, and transportation is really lacking for a state as advanced as us. We're watching, of course, on the news the issues with the T, right, the Orange Line, the safety issues. The Orange Line shut down for 30 days.
In the lieutenant governor's role leading the governor's council, Senator Lesser believes the state's judiciary should reflect the makeup of the citizens of the Commonwealth.
I think one of the things I'd like to prioritize as chairing the Governor's Council is diversity on our bench in every sense. We need more racial diversity. We need more gender diversity. Something that I think is very important for the South Coast and Fall River is geographic diversity of our judges. I can appreciate this as a Western Mass guy, but there was a period of time when, for example, the SJC really only had judges from right within the Metro Boston area. That's not fair. That locks whole regions out of representation. The other thing I'd like to see, Keith, and this goes to your point about kind of diversity of viewpoints and perspectives, is I'd like to see more diversity of experience. We need to see more public interest lawyers. We need to see more environmental attorneys. We need to see more civil rights attorneys serving as judges in our state.
Senator Lesser is being challenged in the Democratic primary by Salem Mayor Kim Driscoll and State Representative Tammy Govea. He says he's the only candidate that brings a wide breadth of experience to the race.
I'm the only candidate with federal experience. I'm the only candidate that comes from an underserved region. I'm the only candidate with high-level legislative experience. And I think those are important. And I think that it informs and helps shape your approach to these issues. And so, you know, I'm also the only candidate that's really centered and focused on transportation, especially transportation for our outlying regions, South Coast, Western Mass, Central Mass, Merrimack Valley, right, Cape Cod, that is going to really be important as we move forward.
Democrat Chris Dempsey has limited government experience, but he feels he can still make an impact as the state's next auditor. Mr. Dempsey has served as a town meeting member in Brookline and was an assistant secretary of transportation under Governor Deval Patrick. He is also known as one of the local leaders to thwart the effort to bring the 2024 Summer Olympics to Boston. One of the initiatives he would undertake when first taking office is making sure money the Commonwealth has received from the American Rescue Plan Act is being well spent.
We've got about $5.3 billion to spend. That money can be transformational if it's spent well. Right. Now, one of the key things with audits is that most state programs are budgeted on an annual basis. And so you can go in at the end of the year, you can perform your audit, figure out what didn't work, and you can fix it for the next year ahead. That doesn't work with one-time dollars. We don't want to spend all $5.3 billion and then audit it and realize we didn't spend the money that well. You can only spend $1 once. And so I'm proposing to audit and track those dollars in as close to real time as possible. And that will allow us, if we find issues with how the money is being spent, to redirect those funds to places where they are going to get a bigger impact, a bigger bang for our buck.
The Auditor's Office can also make recommendations to state departments on how they can run more efficiently and be an agent of positive change. Mr. Dempsey says he plans to focus on climate change action and suggest changes within the state police.
I'm going to make the office the first in the country to incorporate carbon accounting into our audits of state agencies. And that's going to allow us to hold state agencies accountable for the laws that are on the books that require them to reduce emissions. Effectively, we're going to point out the gap between their requirements and where we actually are as a state. We know they're not doing enough. Another area that we're going to look at is reform of the Massachusetts State Police. In meeting after meeting that I've been to over the course of the last 14 months, talking to Democratic voters and really unenrolled voters as well, I've heard that the Massachusetts State Police is an area of concern. People have great respect, as I do, for our troopers on the front lines, but they want to make sure that that agency is being held accountable. There's been a series of scandals there that have kind of broken faith and trust with the public. And the auditor can step in beyond just the finances and say, are they following the law? Are they following best practices of other agencies around the country? And then again, work in partnership with those troopers to help reform that agency from within and make it more responsive to all of us.
Mr. Dempsey has received the endorsement of outgoing Auditor Suzanne Bump as well as Fall River Mayor Paul Coogan. He says his local and state government experience will come in handy in ensuring Fall River and other gateway cities get their fair share of state funding.
The state and local government has to be a partnership. And again, it's why I'm proud of that local experience that I have. When Mayor Coogan calls me, and I hope that he will in this role, and I know that he will, I'm not just going to bring the relationship that I have with him, I'm going to bring the decade of experience that I have serving myself at the local level and knowing that cities and towns often have the greatest demands on their resources and the fewest opportunities to raise revenue or change their status or their situation. So I take that work very seriously. Fall River is a proud and dynamic city. It's also a city that needs help from state programs. And we want to make sure, again, that those dollars are not getting lost in bureaucracy, that they are going to the places where there's actual need.
Mr. Dempsey is being challenged by State Senator Diana DiZoglio. He feels his message is resonating with a wide range of state Democrats, including those serving alongside Senator DiZoglio on Beacon Hill.
The people who have worked with my opponent in this race, side by side in the legislature, those women who have been in the trenches of fighting for a more fair Commonwealth and fighting for issue after issue that we care about, are endorsing me in this race and not their colleague. I think that is a reason for people to think about who they would be electing in this role. I'm really proud to have the support again of people like State Rep Carol Fayola, and I think there's a lot to that story about why those legislators and especially those women legislators have decided to support me in this race.
As you prepare for Tuesday's primary, we invite you to take a look at some of the interviews we have with the candidates on the ballot by visiting our Special Election 2022 webpage on our website at FRCmedia.org. Also join us here next week as we will have complete coverage of how Fall River voted in the state primary. We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Family Service Association, located at 101 Rock Street, is looking for a full-time accounting assistant responsible for assisting the accounting department with daily functions including analysis, monthly and annual reporting. Job number 175-70261. Cardiologist, South Coast Health, located at 300 Hanover Street, seeks a full-time cardiologist to diagnose and treat disorders and diseases of the cardiovascular system. Job number 175-65186. Receptionist, Atlantis Charter School, located at 991 Jefferson Street, is seeking a full-time receptionist to answer phone calls and emails, welcome visitors, and support teaching and administrative staff by providing information to students and parents. Job number 175-69121. Assistant Manager D'Angelo's, located at 1040 North Main Street, is looking for a full-time assistant manager. For more information, call 508-677-2322. Bristol Community College, located at 777 Ellsbury Street, has an immediate need for the following full and part-time positions. Campus Police Officer, job number 175-66212. Instructional Support Technician, job number 175-66214. For more information about these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. Fall River Mayor Paul Coogan this week rededicated 2 parks in the city's Flint neighborhood that were renovated using state and community development agency funds. The Edmund and Lillian Damaris Playground off County Street and the Massasoit Kathy Assad Tot Lot on the corner of Wamsutta and Quikasham Streets each sport new playground equipment and surface renovations. At the Assad Tot Lot rededication, Mayor Coogan recounted the countless contributions Ms. Assad made to the Flint neighborhood.
Remember that the Massasoit Kathy Assad Tot Lot is a neighborhood park. It serves as open space for the nearby kids who have not got a lot of green space to play in. They got a beautiful court now, and I come up here every time I drive by, there's kids out there playing in the splash pad, which is great. And so many people, I being one of them, I worked with her for a number of years at Durfee, have very special memories of Kathy Assad. Whether they were her students during her many, many years at Durfee, she was a neighborhood kid who took everyone under her wing, or one of the many community leaders who inspired action by her hard work and organizing the Flint Neighborhood Association. She cared specifically about this neighborhood, the Flint neighborhood, and all up and down it. She was a very, very active, strong woman who's made a difference in the lives of so many people up here, and it's a fitting tribute that we renovated this park in her honor.
Miss Assad's daughter, Natalie, says her mother, who passed away nearly 5 years ago, would have been proud of the improvements made at the park.
You know, 8 years ago, everything was a little different. She was here, and she was humbled by even her name being associated with a park. So today, for it to be rededicated with the newest accessible features for children, and to see a splash pad, and then to see these wonderful children here and everyone in the audience, our family, and I know my mom is looking down, thanking each of you for being here. So please remember to be good to each other every day and to look out for your neighborhood. So thank you so much.
We will wrap up this edition of FRC Media News right after this.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Caps. Today we have Carolina. She is a domestic short-haired calico. She's very laid back. She does like to hide sometimes, but not too much. She's approximately 6 to 7 years old. She's a laid-back cat. She likes to just chill a lot. Any age, I would say, is fine with her. Maybe 5 and older, just because she's not a overly playful kind of cat. She is very lovable. She's a beautiful girl. She was an owner surrender. They just couldn't care for her any longer. This is Carolina. If you would like to meet her, come on down to 300 Linwood Street, Forever Paws Animal Shelter, and meet Carolina.
Today we have Foxy. Despite the name, Foxy is in fact a boy. He is a terrier mix. As you can tell, he is a very energetic dude. He absolutely loves to play. He is 4 years old right now, so he's still a young dude. Combine that with his breed, he does have a lot of energy, but he is still a pretty small dude. You know, he's around 20 pounds or so. So if you're living in a home or an apartment, you can only have a size limit, but you want an active dog that you can still take out in the backyard or take on a walk, take on a hike. Foxy is your guy for that. He is definitely has the energy for it. Very playful. He's very good about his play. He's not possessive of anything of any of his food, of his treats, of his toys, that sort of thing. You'll probably hear a little play growl here in a minute, but that's all in good fun. Because of his energy level and because of just how much he likes to play, because of the mouthiness, that sort of thing, we do want him to go to a home that just has adults. He's a very good boy, very energetic. Would definitely make a good companion for an active home. So if you're interested in Foxy here, you can come down to 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts at Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
That's all for this edition of FRC Media News. Please check out our website at frmedia.org for all the latest news and local information. FRC Media News airs Thursdays at 6 p.m. and Fridays at 5:30 p.m. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great long Labor Day weekend. Please, if you can, vote on Election Day, and we'll talk to you next Thursday.